If you're new to sewing and you've been wanting to make some accessory bags, but you're not quite sure if you have the skills yet to do that, I'm here to tell you, friend, that you can, and this beginner boxy bag is absolutely perfect for you. This is the very first boxy bag I ever made. It is extremely beginner friendly. I'm gonna show you exactly how to make it with measurements and step-by-step tips and tricks along the way. Hi friends, I'm Brittany, the mama maker behind Ginger Patch Designs, and this video is part of a bigger playlist with all kinds of holiday gift sewing ideas or winter projects, and they're all beginner friendly with step-by-step tips and tricks. So let me show you all the materials you need with the measurements to get started. So you're going to need 2 pieces of exterior fabric and 2 pieces of interior fabric cut at 12 by 8 inches. And just a note about when you're cutting your fabric, this is not directional fabric, so it wouldn't have mattered which way I cut it on the table. However, if you are using directional fabric, like, oh, I already turned it upside down. For example, this Harry Potter fabric, the way the text goes for all the houses here, I would need to make sure that I'm cutting my 12 inches across this way so that my direction is not going the wrong way, if that makes sense. From your main fabric, you need a 5-inch wide by about a 5 or a 6-inch long piece. This is going to be our pull handle on the end of the boxy bag, and then some scrap pieces you can cut. I've got about, I think, a 1.5 inch by 3 or 4 inch here. It just needs to be the width of your zipper here, or even a little bit wider than your zipper and long enough to fold over like that. And then you'll also need a 12 by 8 inch medium weight interfacing. This boxy bag is very, very flexible and thin on purpose. It is not made with cotton batting. As far as which medium interfacing to use, this happens to be Pellin 809. I've also used Pellin 40, Pellin 50, just any medium weight will work. And just a note about interfacing, if you're new, the Pellin brand color codes their weights. And so the medium weight is yellow and the light weights are pink. I do not recommend using a lightweight interfacing for this because it will be too floppy. You will also need your iron and some quilt clips. All of the materials that I can possibly link down in the description for you, I will. If you don't have quilt clips because you're so new, you can use pins, or you can very, very carefully hold your layers in place when we get to that part. You're also going to need a 12-inch zipper. If you happen to have a larger zipper, you can just cut it down to 12 inches, but it does need to be at least 12 inches. So whenever I'm making projects, I like to prepare all the smaller pieces first, if possible. And so we're gonna prepare the zipper and the pull tab first. So taking your pull tab fabric, again, it's 5 inches wide. We're going to fold this over with the wrong sides of the fabric together. The wrong side is basically the ugly side and the lighter color side. And you're gonna hold it in place and just press it and then open it back up. And you're gonna fold both of those sides in towards that center press line that you just created. Now you might need to hold it with your fingers a little bit like this. And then we're gonna fold it over again, line up those edges and press. Now you have the option to just leave it just like that before we stitch it. This is a completely optional step because honestly, the handle on this type of bag is not gonna get the type of wear and tear that maybe a pull tab would on a keychain wallet where it's holding a lot of weight of the keys or the wallet itself. However, if you have a scrap piece of that interfacing from when you were cutting earlier, you can cut down a small piece just slightly less than the width of what you just pressed, and we can insert that into the middle. Again, this is totally optional. It's not going to change what the final product looks like. So you'll open up one side of that and just put that in there, fold it back up, and you can just press it. And now we're gonna take this to our machine for top stitching. Whenever I'm stitching closed, a piece like this, I like to do the open side first. So we're gonna sew a 1/8 inch seam along the side. Now, if you're not sure how wide a 1/8 inch seam is. For example, my machine only starts marking at 1/4 inch. Something that I do to kind of cheat, just to keep all of my seam allowances even, is I use my presser foot. Now, everyone's presser foot does not look the same. This is a narrow one, but whatever the edge of my presser foot is, I just follow along that edge, because that width right there on my presser foot is about 1/8 of an inch. And so that's what I'm gonna do. Another trick, if you're new, is that the feed dogs, which are these pokey things under your presser foot, sometimes they don't like to catch the fabric to start feeding the fabric through. And so I actually don't start on the very edge of the fabric. I like to start just a little bit inward, and this is not going to be visible on the final product whatsoever. And you're going to repeat that on the other side. As long as your stitches are even on both sides, whether you use 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, it's okay as long as they're even. Then it will look just nice. And if you have any long stringies, just cut those off so they don't get in the way later. Now we're going to prepare our zipper. So take your 2 little scrap tabs that you made and fold them over and just give them a quick press to hold in place. Now, if yours are a little bit shorter or longer than mine, it's fine. It's gonna get cut off, and so it's not gonna matter. And then on your zipper, if you're using an individual zipper like this, if you're using zipper tape, then you don't have to use this step. We do not want to risk sewing over this metal piece. So we're gonna trim that off and then unzip this side just a little bit, because we don't want our pull to come off. And then this side also has 2 metal pieces. The purpose of these metal pieces are to keep the pull from coming off, but we are gonna stitch at both ends to keep that pull from coming off. Now, just for a quick reference, if you lay out your 12-inch main piece here, once you've snipped those off, you can see that it is still an okay length. And if it is shorter than the width on both sides, do not freak out. It's okay. That is the whole purpose of the zipper tabs. We're going to essentially be putting the zipper tabs on both ends here to make the ends of the zippers nice and clean, and just it'll give it a nice finished look when the bag is finished. Now, if you do have your quilt clips, you're going to take your folded over zipper tab and you're going to place it about 1/2 inch or so down. If it's not exact, it is okay, and you're just going to clip it in place. And before we clip the other side, we need to take this to our machine and just baste stitch this end closed so that that's not an ugly problem later. At your machine, I would not zip this down any more than that, or it'll become a little bit more cumbersome, but you're just gonna hold the end of the zipper tape together with your finger, smooth it down to make sure it is even. And just at the very end there, we're gonna baste that end closed. Now, baste just means you're just gonna go back and forth a few times. If you're not sure how to backstitch on your machine, you'll have to check your user manual. But I'm holding my finger right here because sometimes the presser foot will want to push out a part of the zipper teeth. And so I'm holding that in place with my finger, but just also be careful doing that because it is very close to the needle. If you want to use another tool, like if you have, you know, a screwdriver or a dowel rod or something, and you want to hold it in place like that, you can do that as well. I'm going very slow. That's all we need to do. Okay, now that those ends are secured in place, we can go ahead and place our zipper tab and pin it. A great way to double check your tab placement, if this is one of your very first bags, is to get your main piece and center it. And as long as your white zipper is not super close to the edge and you've got at least 1/2 inch of visible zipper tab on your piece, then you're good to go. I'm actually noticing that this one is a little uneven compared to this one. So I'm going to adjust. So now we're just going to stitch our zipper tab onto the zipper tape. And I'm going to keep my finger on there so I don't lose my spot. Another reason making your zipper tabs a little bit wider than your zipper tape initially is, again, to help your feed dogs catch the fabric. What I mean by catch the fabric is these feed dogs literally are what make the fabric move for the presser foot, and if it can't catch the fabric, then you're gonna have bunched stitching, and it's very messy. It's very messy. So when you bring your zipper pull all the way down, it should be even. There should not be any bunching right here. If there is, I encourage you to pull the tab back down, pick these stitches, pull it out, and then pick the stitches from the basting that you did and redo it, and make sure you go like this on the zipper tape all the way down to make sure there's no bunching. But if you're good to go, then just go ahead and stitch that other zipper tab. So we've got our pull finished and our zipper. Now this is an optional step. You don't have to, but I just never like any unnecessary bulk. So any of the fabric that's excess off the side of the zipper, I just like to trim that up. I don't have very much bulk on the side of mine, but there are times when there's like 1/4 of an inch or even more off to the side of the zipper. So I just like to even those up. And also, as a side note, not affiliated whatsoever, this brand of scissors is called Pro Shear. Hands down, the best fabric scissors I've ever had. I know if you're new, you're probably going to be looking at Fiskars because that's like one of the go-to brands, and Fiskars is great, but this one's better. Trust me. I have this size and then I have this size. I've had this really long one for a few years now, and it is just as sharp as the day I bought it. Anywho, now let's prepare our body pieces. So you've got your 2 pieces of interfacing. Now when you're working with interfacing, there's 2 different sides to it. There's like the outside side, and then if you look at it in the light on one side, you'll see the texture is different. And so you're gonna want whatever shiny or textured side of your interfacing, that's the side that you want up facing you, and you're gonna put your piece on top of it. I always like to give this a press. Oh, my cord's caught on my table. There it goes. I always like to press these out because just any lasting wrinkles, and it just kind of presses the fabric to that interfacing. I'm gonna do the other piece real quick. If you see any stray stringies, I get those off. That happens. Also, if you're curious about my iron, I don't really have an iron recommendation. This is a Rowenta from Walmart from like, I don't know, 15 years ago, but it's still a truckin' and it works. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Okay, so we've got our 2 pieces, and if you haven't done so already, go ahead and iron out flat any wrinkles from your interior pieces. This is where if you don't have quilt clips or even pins, this is going to be very tricky. I highly encourage you, if you're new, to get quilt clips. They're very cheap, and you're literally going to use them for almost every project. And then you're going to take your zipper and you're going to put it face down. When you do, I like to keep my finger on the zipper pull because you want to make sure the zipper pull is face down as well. And just make sure you line that up evenly based on where you put your tabs. Not where you cut the zipper, but where your actual tabs are here. And you're going to push it to the very edge and line it up right here. And then you're going to take your lining fabric. Now I know with lining fabrics, especially this one, it's really hard to tell which is the right side. This is the right side of this fabric, and I know that because of when I cut it. And you're going to put it right sides down. So this right side and this right side are going to be together. And you're going to line them all up. So everything should be lined up. I like to hold it like this so there's no shifting. And you're going to clip all those layers in place. Now, I personally don't like to cut these yet. I like to use these zipper tabs to help the feed dogs catch the fabric so I can get like the main body piece of my project into the feed dogs. Now for this step, you're gonna want to change the foot on your machine to your zipper foot. Now your zipper foot probably looks very different from mine. I have a semi-industrial machine, and so if you just have a standard sewing machine, yours is gonna look very different from mine. But if you're not sure how to do that or which foot that came with your machine is a zipper foot, make sure you go look at your manual, and it should come with a little screwdriver with your machine that you can change it out. Always make sure that your needle is depressed all the way, or your needle is all the way up, excuse me, not depressed. Also, I want to note, if you've never sewn with a zipper foot before, there is, on standard machines, there's usually a different stitch setting or something over on the right hand side of your panel that you need to change for your zipper foot. Again, look at your own sewing machine's manual to make sure that you're selecting the right settings or stitching for your zipper foot. Ugh, I can't speak, sorry. Now when I first started sewing these, I would start sewing like right here, but this is where the zipper pull is. So for that reason, and when you turn it over, you can see all of the layers a lot better. You can make sure that all of your layers are lined up properly and there's minimal shifting. And I'm gonna show you what to do with the zipper pull when we get to it. But I'm gonna go ahead and put my zipper foot down. Now, if you have never sewn a zipper, I highly encourage you to just watch before you do anything. Now, you cannot see it in the video, but the zipper teeth, the bumpy part of the zipper, is right here. Okay, and this is where I have my clips. So when I'm sewing, I'm feeling where those zipper teeth are, and I want my zipper foot to not be like right on top of, next to, not on top of, but not like immediately next to the teeth, but like barely 1/8 of an inch next to it. I don't want it to be right there on the teeth, but as butted up close to it. It doesn't, your needle does not need to be way over here near the edge or even like right here. It needs to be about 1/8 of an inch from the zipper teeth. And the way the zipper foot is designed, it's designed to guide along the zipper teeth. And another thing, you'll notice that this extra tab fabric is completely covering the feed dogs. I feel like zippers alone can be tricky for beginners, but especially, again, depending on your machine, the feed dogs can struggle sometimes. And there's all kinds of tips and tricks for that out there, but as a beginner, this is the easiest thing. So I've got my foot down. Okay, I'm at the zipper teeth, and I'm gonna feel where it is as I'm sewing and just try to follow a straight line. And I'm holding the fabric as I go, and when I get close enough, then I will take off a clip, but my fingers are still here. I am holding that zipper in place because I do not want it to shift. And this has happened to me many times where I will finish a zipper and you can tell that when I was in this stage, it kind of did this number, and it's okay, but I wouldn't feel comfortable selling a piece that looked like that. So we just keep a hand on there, and it's not a race. I never go too fast when I'm doing the zippers. Okay, I'm gonna stop about right here. The zipper pull is right here. Now here's a few notes about zipper pulls. My needle is down in the fabric, so I'm gonna raise the back. Do not raise the back unless your needle is down. My personal machine, I do not need to do this, but I'm gonna show you how you sew around a zipper pull. Now, if your machine is like mine or very similar, you can literally just keep sewing that straight line. But if you have a smaller machine or you're sewing with any pull that is larger than that, what you want to do with your needle down, pull up your presser foot, and then very carefully, see this is moving, but that's okay because I've got my needle here. Gently, I put my finger right here and you're just gonna pull that zipper pull down past your needle, like it's back here now. And before we put the presser foot back down, you wanna make sure that everything is lined back up the way it's supposed to be. I lined my zipper back up, I lined my exterior fabric back up, and now I'm gonna put this back down. I'm gonna feel around to make sure, yep, zipper teeth are where they're supposed to be. Now I'm gonna finish. Oh yeah, nice and even. Now when you're using medium weight interfacing, it's gonna, you kind of got to finger press it down like this. We're not gonna take it back to the iron yet. But yeah, this is what I mean. You want your, here's your zipper teeth and here's the line that we just sewn. You want that to be nice and even for a nice even finish. Finger press that down real good. As a beginner, go ahead and snip off any of those extra threads so they do not get in your way. Oh wait, that's just stringies from the lining, but we're gonna snip that anyways. Okay, so the next step is take the panel that you have left and lay it out flat, and then take the panel that we just finished stitching, and you're going to line that up. Now this might be a little tricky. I line it up based on the zipper up here, and then my edges. Now, when you're looking down at your piece like I am right now and you notice some shifting, like I can see that it looks like the liner fabric is not coming all the way over. If you cut your fabric exactly 8 by 10 for both the exterior and the interior, it is not uneven, I promise. There's a lot of fabric shifting when you're doing projects like this. So just trust the process and take your other liner piece right side down. So I know you can't tell with the fabric that I'm using, but right side together. So the wrong side is what should be facing you. And we're gonna line up all of these layers and clip again. Seriously, if you're new to sewing, ask for quilt clips for Christmas. They're a fantastic stocking stuffer, and you're gonna be wanting to make all those winter projects. Girl, get you some. We're gonna go through the same process that we did for the first panel. Now again, when you get to the end, the zipper pull is right here. For some reason, when the zipper is face down, for me, even on my older machine, I never had to move it. It was just always easier to sew over this side with the zipper down. But again, every machine is different. If you want to, with your needle down, follow that step that we did the last time. Raise your presser foot, gently move it down. Now that we're done with stitching the zipper, you can trim off the excess tabs on the side. And we're gonna open up our piece like this. Okay, so you've got your interior here, and it's a little, when you use the medium weight interfacing, it's stiff. Sometimes it's stiff, and that's normal. Okay, so with your two sides like this, we're going to iron out and press down that interfacing. I kind of go like this against the zipper and then iron out to the side, ironing away from the zipper, because what we don't want to happen when we do our top stitching is, like, let's say we didn't iron this out and it was like a little bunched, and when we go to do our top stitching, it's gonna catch, like that zipper coming down is gonna catch on the fabric. So we want to make sure that is pressed down really, really good. I even go like that against the zipper pull on both sides just to force that fabric away. And then I press the other side too. I press inside, out. and I go around the zipper pull like that. All right, there we go. Now we're ready to top stitch down both sides of the zipper. Okay, make sure you take your zipper foot back off and put your regular sewing foot back on. And we're going to sew, I want to say about 1/8 of an inch next to the zipper here. And what I do to make sure it's even, again, is whatever the edge of my presser foot is, that's what I follow. So I'm going to put my presser foot right against like where the blue fabric meets the zipper, and I'm just going to allow the edge of my presser foot to be my guide. Oh, also when you change your zipper foot out, don't forget to change your stitch settings. If you changed any settings on your machine, back to just the regular sewing settings. And notice how I've got my hands just lightly on either side of the fabric. I'm not pushing, I'm not pulling, I'm just holding it in place so it doesn't sew unevenly. Now, for some reason you have to shift your hands, wait until, like, take your foot off of the pedal and with the needle down and it stopped, then you can readjust. I mean, maybe some people do it. I have found if I adjust mid-sew and I don't have a hand on it, there sometimes is a little bit of unevenness. Be careful of the zipper pull. You should be able to sew right past it. Again, if you're new, snip off any of those extra long stringies so they don't get in our way later. For the next step, unzip your zipper about halfway or so, and then with all of the sides smoothed out, you're going to fold it in half. Now this is the part of the bag making where you really have to trust the process. Oftentimes liners like to shift, they want to lay over here or whatever. You force them to line up and I promise it will turn out the way it is supposed to. So I line up my interior and then I smooth that out. So you can tell for the most part, with the exception of this, it looks like I thought this was a scrap piece of fabric that I cut, and it looks like there was just a smidge missing right here where I thought I cut a clean 8x12 and there was just a little part missing. I cut some bowl covers, liner covers from these, and that must be what that is, but it's fine. Everything else is lined up perfectly. So I'm just gonna clip, and I'm going to put one on each side here just for good measure. And we're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch along this line only, on the bottom edge only. Now, depending on how your stitching went or how many stringies you have, I'm going to trim off some excess, but I am not going to cut more than 1/8 of an inch close to my stitching. Honestly, I want to leave about 1/4 of an inch on there, but I've got a little bit of interfacing showing, and so I'm going to cut a long, even line here. Because the thing about this bag is that there is raw edges on the inside, but because we are not using batting, we're using interfacing, it's very minimal. As you grow more experienced, you will graduate to bags that do not have raw edges, but this is a fantastic and still a clean pattern to follow as a beginner. So you've got your open zipper here, you've got your nice clean edge down here. You're going to put your hand in here and kind of open it up. And you're going to line up, you've got this seam and then you've got where your zipper is. You're going to line those up very evenly and clip. If the interfacing is a little stiff, that's okay. Do the same thing to the other side. Line it up. I clip the middle first and then Smooth down those edges. Now, when you smooth down these edges, sometimes on the inside, you can feel like there's some fabric bunching. If it does that, open it up, like put your finger in there and just kind of go like this and smooth it out. And then put the clip back on there and just finger press it all down. So we're gonna stitch all the way across here and all the way across here. Now you're going to sew with a 1/4 inch inseam, but I will add to that, if your fabric has shifted at all or anything, you will be able to see along these edges if, like for example, like let's say this liner piece comes out all the way to the edge like it's supposed to, but if I look underneath, the main fabric piece is back a little bit, like it's not meeting the edge. You just want to make sure you catch all the layers. So if you need to pick up your presser foot and shift it over just a smidge to make sure you're catching all those layers, that's fine. Now when you get to this step, if your zipper tape is longer than mine and it's coming out this way, you'll want to make sure to just go slower over that zipper tape. Also a note, typically on all of these edges, we would backstitch. Every time you start and stop a stitching, you want to backstitch. But we don't need to because these corners are going to be clipped off. Now you are going to trim off excess here if you have it. Again, do not trim more than 1/8 of an inch. And the reason for that is this is a makeup bag or an accessory bag. It's going to get usage. If you cut your trim too close to your stitches, you compromise the integrity of the stitching, which will lead to holes, puckering, whatever later down the road. So giving the stitches their space, I guess if you want to think about it like that, helps keep the integrity of the bag. Now unzip the rest of the way. So for each of the corners, you're going to, I put my hand in here and kind of flatten it out. And you're going to flatten it into that triangle, just like that. And you're going to pin it. If it's too awkward to pin it before you measure or before you draw your line, that's okay. We're going to draw a 2.5 inch mark. And then you're going to repeat for the other side. The clips are just going to help hold that in place. Now, when you open your zipper, basically the open zipper end, this is the end that we're gonna put our pull tab on. I'm gonna insert my pull tab in here, and I'm gonna go ahead and take off those clips. Okay, you have to feel for the pull tab. Now, you can see it going straight across right there. What I do is, this is tricky because you cannot see what I'm doing right now. This is you feel it through the fabric thing. So I'm gonna feel until the very end of, see the end of the pull tab is like right here. I want it to be at least 1/4 of an inch past the line that I made. And honestly, if you're pushing against this, if you see right here, you can feel when you can't push it anymore on the inside, and you won't be able to push it past about right there because the corners, these corners are gonna hit these sides right here. And this might be a little awkward too. So I've got it pushed as far as it will go here. How I know that it is straight is I can feel, here's the seam, so this would essentially be the middle. I can feel either side of the strap through the fabric. So if I can feel that it's straight all the way to here. So I'm gonna hold that in place and come to my machine. I am going to back stitch on either side here. And then when I get to the very edge of where I've got my my pull strap, we're going to stitch over forward and then back stitch all the way back over it and then front stitch again. We want to reinforce that just in case it were to get heavy usage and it's not purely cosmetic. Also, this is an optional step, and it's purely preference. You can sew straight over this seam like this, or you can open your presser foot and it's called opening the seams. You can open the seams like that and stitch over it. I don't want to because that blue is a really big contrast to the pink, and I also think with such a small seam allowance there, I'm just going to stitch over it just like this, folded over. Okay, that's the edge of my pull tab, so I'm going to back stitch. And then back stitch at the end. Now for the other side, you want to make sure before you insert it on the other side that it's straight. Make sure that you're not inserting it twisted like this. Make sure that it's straight. Take off your clips and go ahead and poke it in. So now that you've got one side in, you can put your thumb in here and try to line it up better. See, the end of it's all the way up here. I'm going to back it up just a little bit. And then you can check to see how straight it is by just opening up the inside there. And that's what it should look like. You can check to make sure, that it's straight. If for some reason these are not straight, you can always pick those stitches and try again. And we're gonna make our corners on the other side. You're gonna flatten into that triangle again. Ooh, it's actually easier to do it over here like this. Make our 2.5 inch lines. One way that I make sure I'm making my lines straight is when I've got my ruler here, I kind of follow the edge of this seam right here, because like if it's like this and I'm trying to make my lines, I can tell that this is not straight. If it's like 1/8 of an inch off from being straight, you're not gonna be able to notice, but if it's like that, then it's gonna be pretty noticeable. So we're just gonna stitch up those sides, except this time without our pull tab. Back stitch. Now we're just gonna carefully snip off those sides. Now notice I'm leaving about that much, about between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch seam on either side, again, to just make sure we're keeping those stitches nice and strong. And if there's little stringies, we'll just snip those off. And so as you can see, even though these are raw edges, they're really not that bad. Again, it is completely up to you if you were to sell a bag like this. I no longer sell raw edge bags, but again, I used to sell more than I can even count. I think for a beginner bag, the raw seams are really actually pretty clean looking. So you're gonna turn it right side out. And we're gonna poke all of those corners you just made, poke them out with your finger. Oh, nice. That's so pretty. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy with it. And look at our beautiful straight pull tab here, and then our zipper tabs that hid the ends of those zippers so they fit nicely in the ends right there. There's literally so many uses for this. I've had customers buy them not just for makeup, but they hold a few diapers and wipes, a car toy bag, crochet bag, like your crochet tools and stuff, a stitch bag. So many versatile uses, and it's machine washable. And it's also versatile in that if you wanted a bigger or taller bag, you simply, instead of 12 by 8, you could do 9 by 13. 10 by 14. You just increase your sizes and then modify, instead of 2.5 Instead of cutting 2.5 quarters, you might do 2 3/4 or 3 inch. You just increase or decrease your measurements. Friends, don't forget there's several free tutorials over on my channel, so make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss more crafty content. Friends, it was so fun sewing with you today. Bye.